Today I'm going to show you how to anchor tank. I'm going to do that using Emma. Anchor tanks are strong heroes that are able to set up and hold space easily, and they usually come equipped with some sort of shield. They're not very mobile, so they can't push into areas very quickly, but they can't be taken out of areas very quickly either. And one of the things that makes anchor tanks so great is because they move slower, so the rest of the team understands the push and pull of the fight a little bit better. Anchor tanks also pair really well with any of the other tanks on the roster. They can basically fit into any team comp. That being said, that doesn't mean that you have to have an anchor tank. It's just about understanding how to play with and around the tanks that you have. The more space you're able to take, the more angles your DPS are able to access in order to try and get picks. And the longer you hold on to space on defense is the longer you can control the objective. Your job as tank is to hold space, pull out valuable cooldowns, apply pressure, and most of all, not die. As tanks, you have very large health pools and a lot of defensive abilities in order to keep yourself alive. And once the tanks fall over, the rest of the team is going to fall over too, which is why solo tanking doesn't work out as well as two tanks. And I know some of you haven't seen me play Emma before, and while you might be thinking that I must have gotten some hours practicing Emma, I really don't have that much time on her. But by understanding what the tank's job is and the macro strategy behind it, I can pick up an anchor tank like Emma and adapt very quickly. Playing someone like Emma means that I have to play pretty slow until I can build my charge up. And because I'm a non-mobile tank, it means I really need to predict what danger is going to happen before it happens, as I really can only rely on the resources I have here in the bottom right. If you're charged, you have your resources up and you have health, you can push up and take space. And if you don't have those things, you need to back up and give up space. And just like I said in my resource management video, you need to rely on just your cooldowns alone in order to keep yourself alive. The moment you start to expect a non-stop flow of heals to keep you up is the moment you're going to die. Now as Emma, there's actually a few different ways to use all of her different abilities. Her shield, for instance, can be used to block off heals from the enemy. It can be used to block predictable attacks like Bucky hooks. You can even place it right next to you and dance in between it as you're fighting somebody. Her diamond form can of course be used to grab someone and kick them into a wall, but it can also just be used as a simple displacement tool. You can also use it as a means to get to vertical high ground that you otherwise wouldn't be able to reach. Her crystal ability, when used on someone and destroyed, it will take away 25% of their max health. The health of the crystal, however, is based off of the current health the enemy has. So the lower in health that they are, the faster it is to destroy the crystal, and it works great as an execute tool. Now that being said, we'll jump into it. Now I want to start off by saying, in this game, both I and Penny got a lot of final hits this game, but that's not the primary job of tanks. It's great that we did, and it's great that it worked out that way, but the main job of tanks is to control and hold space. Now here, as I walked up and I started to take space, my Star-Lord went in and accidentally made a mistake and died early. And my ability to push up and aggressively take space is also dictated by how many teammates I have alive. I'm going to try and apply as much pressure as I can, build ult charge, and get my energy up, but I also don't want to die in this moment and stagger myself or my teammates longer. So I'm going to play really slow as I buy time for our Star-Lord to come back. You also need to understand how to play around the DPS and the other heroes on your team. If you have low heals, you need to prepare for that, and depending on the DPS that you have, it will change how much pressure you're applying to their front line and what you need to wait for. In this instance here, I have a Spider-Man player, which means that I need to wait until he creates an opening by diving their backline, so I'm playing slow, waiting for that opportunity. And for right now, until Star-Lord comes back, that's all we're going to do is just play slow and wait to see the enemies make a mistake. With both of our DPS down, all we do right now is we just hold and maintain this space and wait for our teammates to come back. We've already taken this space, and all we're trying to do now is hold it until they can apply pressure, allowing us to take more. Seeing Spidey come in and displace the Magneto, now I can start playing much more aggressively onto their one tank in front of me, especially because of the fact that because I was live this whole time, I was able to get to max energy, and now I can apply a lot of pressure onto the Emma. Whenever I'm fighting someone, I'll always be trying to find a way to use my shield to block off enemy heals. And while I might be applying damage to the tank, at any point in time, if I ever get the opportunity to start applying pressure to the squishies, I'll typically switch to the higher priority target. But even if you don't necessarily get the kill on the tanks, even if you're applying enough damage and applying enough pressure, you will force them to back up. And if they don't, hopefully you might be able to get an execute with the crystal like I did here. Once the Emma fell, now I have access to a lot more space than I did before, and I immediately start targeting the Gambit. Once I have max energy, I want to keep it at max energy. So I'm going to be constantly looking for enemy targets in order to apply that pressure and do that damage and hold on to that energy as long as I can. And right now, with our numbers advantage and our DPS back, we want to try and get as many staggers as possible. Knowing that they're going to TP, I enter into my diamond form in order to hold on to my energy. It's a sacrifice I'm willing to make. You also saw that as I pushed forward and I pushed the enemy back, I didn't chase for kills because I valued my life and control over the objective more than I wanted to get those kills. Because as you saw at the start of the round, both of our DPS died immediately, but we still managed to hold on and maintain that space until they came back. And my job here as tank, once again, is just maintain the space and control over the objective. We were able to hold down the point really well, enough to almost get all 3 ticks. And unfortunately, as soon as I got my ult, I immediately popped it to try and help us win the team fight. And while I thought I was in the LOS of my supports in order to keep myself alive through this attack, I unfortunately took too much damage and ended up dying. And now that I've died, this fight is pretty much lost and we need to regroup and try and take it again. As I walk up, unfortunately Spidey dies, but at least he's the fastest one to roll out of spawn. Before going in, I immediately turn and look to my team and see where their locations are before I head in and start to try and take space again. I see a lot of tanks always wondering, where's my team? And you should always be turning around to try and see where they are because it's just a good habit to get into. And now that most of my team is back, I'm going to start going in and trying to slowly take that space back again. As I went to the right to try and apply pressure to the front line, try and build my energy back up, my Penny and DPS ended up getting a pick on the Phoenix up top. And now that's a 6v5 in our favor, all we need to do is safely apply a lot of pressure in order to win this team fight. And while it's really unfortunate that we double support ulted, it does mean that we get to secure the point really easily and very quickly. Now that we have control over the convoy and it's going to start moving out, it will auto move on its own until it gets through the waterfall. But me being a very slow, non-mobile tank, I'm going to start walking up and try and take as much space as I can from the enemy team. So that way hopefully it allows our convoy to move up uncontested. You don't always have to default walking main as an anchor tank. You can start to explore around and take other paths. I know that they're going to have to take that high ground, so I go up to see who's up there to see if I can't force anyone off. When I see how many enemies are up there and I know they're going to start pressuring me, I immediately back up because I know it's not a fight that I can win. They're letting me know that that space is theirs, and I'm going to back out and I'm going to try and regroup with my team and come up with a different plan. Seeing Magneto fall, I immediately see an opportunity to use my diamond form to kick him back into my team because I know he wants to get out of there. Mag is all about keeping that distance and poking from afar and applying that pressure and not getting close. Him making this crucial mistake means it's an easy pick for the rest of us. There's a lot of brawling going on right now and we're trading kills back and forth on each team, but in this instance our spawn is much closer than their spawn, so it's kind of working out in our favor even if we trade. Still, it's always preferred that you stay alive, but it could be worse. And right now both tanks have pushed up and have stopped the convoy from moving, so I want to do what I can to try and get this convoy moving again. The moment I get my ult, I immediately pop it. The reason why is I want to take space away from the enemy team and I want to pull out valuable resources from them. By pulling out a support ult now, it makes it easier for my Star-Lord and Spidey to get a lot of picks with their DPS ults, as it's much more likely that they'll get picks with their ults than I will. And you can see that as we apply damage to the tanks, they back up and try and take space around the next corner, allowing our convoy to move forward again. Right after my ultimate runs out, Brandon on Penny here follows up immediately with his ult afterwards. This will help us apply pressure and take even more space from the enemy team. We're either going to secure kills this way, or we're going to push them back and allow the convoy to keep moving. But notice how we didn't ult at the same time here. And now that Inviswoman's ult is down, it's going to be much easier to try and secure kills with his ult. With the help of the Inviswoman ult and Penny ult, we were able to secure kills, allowing the convoy to move up a lot farther. Right after you get that first pick, it's really easy to start following up and cleaning up the staggers. The more staggers you get on the enemy team, the more time you allow the convoy to move up freely. At this point, you'll start to see your allies use their ultimates to secure even more staggers. Now, as I said before, anchor tanks don't have great mobility, so you want to try and take as much space as you can away from the enemy. On this second point, it's very difficult to try and take space along these long pathways where there's no cover. So I communicate to Brandon, let's push up and take this corner. Seeing that Mag is low, I start applying pressure to him to push him back so he can set up his penny nests. We're not necessarily trying to get all of the kills or start a fight at this corner. What we're trying to do is make it very difficult for them to try and reach the objective. Right now, Brandon and I are going to play very slow and we're going to wait for them to try and rush to touch the objective. And when they do that, by rushing, it makes it much easier for them to make a mistake. Meanwhile, during this time, my supports can sit safely back on the convoy and allow it to push up faster, and by being up so far, it gives a lot of space for our DPS in order to find angles and apply pressure and secure kills. Notice here though that we're not trying to push past this corner, we're just trying to hold it down and slow their progression. And this is the type of mistake I'm talking about. By denying them access to the convoy, they're forced to put their amplifier in a bad spot. This will allow us to burn through it much faster and not allow them to take the fight to the convoy. And there, because they all had to rush to the point all at once using the amplifier, we were easily able to win the team fight. The better you are at controlling space as a tank, the easier you make it on your DPS to help secure kills. And as you can see through this entire time, I'm always applying pressure, but I'm always playing to live, because if I fall over, the entire team needs to regroup. But now that we've capped the second point, I'm going to immediately push up again and start taking more space. Here you see I push all the way up to almost the third point entirely. And now that we've taken this corner, we're just going to try and hold it down. And while I understand that 3 people on the cart moves it the fastest, because the cart still has such a long way to move up, you realistically want to have 5 people pushed up and only 1 person on the convoy. The convoy gets the biggest speed boost from 1 person on that, and it gets incrementally slower each person after that. The time that you stack 3 people on is when you think with 3 people on, it'll cap it before the enemy gets back. But otherwise, in this instance, it's more valuable for us 5 to push up and try and deny them space because of the fact that if even second one of them is touching, they will stop the convoy from moving. So our goal, once again, in this situation is not necessarily to secure kills. It would be great if we could, but all we need to do is just keep them from getting to the convoy. So we're just going to play this corner and we're going to play safe. Now that me and Penny have our ultimates, we immediately pop them to try and see if we can't pull out some valuable resources or try and secure a kill. Remember, if you're not using your ultimate, it means you're not charging your next one. After pressuring the enemy team enough, they use their support ult in order to try and stay alive and try to maintain that space. But during this entire time, the convoy's still been moving. And now that me and Penny have pulled out those valuable resources, it once again makes it much easier for our DPS to try and secure kills with their ult. After turning around and seeing where my convoy was and where my teammates were, I tell Brandon to push up and we're going to try and hold this spawn down. Because now, once again, as we secured that team fight, we're able to take more space away and it's going to be much more difficult for them to push us out of this space. A lot of people complain about Penny on attack, but it's because of the fact that they don't know how to play with a Penny. What Penny is really good at doing is taking away valuable space away from the enemies. And by me being a good anchor tank, I can help secure and hold that space and allow him time to set up. So now we're going to do our best to hold them at the spawn door.
This is real firepower! You get a weapon, you get a weapon, you get a weapon!
Looks like I'll be leading our people now, Magneto.
And the exact same way that we captured the second point is the exact same way that we captured the third point. The DPS and supports this game did an amazing job for sure, but they're able to do their job better because of how well Brandon and I are doing at controlling space and staying alive. And now we'll move on to defense. Here on defense, I'm going to bunker down into the penny webs. I'm going to do my best to try and keep the penny nests alive. I'm going to try and deny space from the enemy team, allowing us to hold the objective as long as possible. Going for kills always means taking an inherent risk, because it's much easier to hold space down, kite back if things get dicey, and retake space afterwards than it is to try and secure a kill. So on defense, my primary job is to try and maintain this space as long as possible and deny the enemy team from securing any kills. I'm not going to chase kills by walking out into the open and abandoning my cover. You'll always see, because of the fact that I'm an anchor tank, I'm always going to be playing around my natural cover, and I'm only using my shield as a means to block certain abilities, block heals from the enemy, but I'm not going to use it as a means to keep myself alive all the time. The heals from your support as well are not meant to keep you alive through everything. Healing from supports is meant to keep you in the fight longer, but realistically, especially because I lack mobility, I need to be very smart about how I'm positioning around cover. The moment that I see my Spidey die, I immediately start to play a bit more safe. Even though he got res, he's not in the fight right now. I had walked away from the Bucky hook and I didn't expect my DPS to get grabbed, and the moment that he did, now is a 5v6. It is not in our favor, and because of the fact that Star-Lord was our primary amount of damage, it means that I need to play very slow right now, and I need to back up and give up space temporarily and try and buy time for my DPS to come back. This is that push and pull of understanding as a tank what your advantages are and what your disadvantages are. And while it's unfortunate that my DPS died, as long as I am alive, we're still able to contest the objective. You can see me always trying to keep my energy at the maximum that I can, and applying pressure to their front line, making it so they don't feel safe walking forward. After seeing my Penny get hooked by Bucky, I immediately use my shield to try and help him get out alive. This is the type of thing that shields are used for. Think of it as a, in case of emergency, use shield. What shields are not good for is using them as some sort of replacement for natural cover. And this is what I'm talking about trying to keep your team alive. Unfortunately, they were still able to get the pick on Brandon, but because of the fact that my DPS came back and were able to secure kills, now, even though I gave up some space temporarily, I can start to try and take some of it back. And the moment I push in to try and contest the objective and try and take some of the space back, my supports end up dying to the Emma. I probably should have given up some ticks on the point and try and help my supports instead. I kind of thought in the moment that they had time to back up, and then when I went to contest the objective, Emma would turn on me. Unfortunately, it didn't work out that way, so now all I'm trying to do is try and see what I can do, and maybe someone might TP back to the point, so I'm just trying to apply damage to the Emma here and get myself ready to try and touch the point. And unfortunately, we weren't able to contest the first point. However, we did manage to pull out both a Rocket ult and Bucky ult at the cost of a Strange Portal, so that's still a very decent trade for us. And now that the enemy convoy is moving, I want to regroup with my team and try to deny them as much space as possible. And my job as tank all the time, especially on these convoy maps, is to try and find ways to bring the fight towards the objective so that way I can keep the convoy from moving. But once again, I'm always valuing my life more than anything, because as long as I'm alive, I can contest that convoy. Penny goes to set up and hold down that corner, and I'm going up above to set up to use my ultimate to try and get a pick on the enemy team. Get creative about how you use your ultimates and don't always default to walking down main. There's a lot of different paths you take, and realistically, I only need to help secure one kill with this ultimate in order to win a team fight. So I go up above to see how I can split the enemy team in two. We push forward and start to use a lot of our ultimates to try and secure kills, and once I see that the enemy Gambit uses his ult and the enemy team starts to play a lot more aggressive, now I want to get out of this situation knowing that we're down our DPS. I want to kite back away from the damage and try and wait out the Gambit ult as I set up with Penny around the corner. With the help of the Invis ult to allow us to feel a lot safer, Brandon was able to secure a couple kills with his mines. Our DPS are now on the way back, and we get to walk forward and contest this convoy. And even though both of our DPS had just died, because Brandon and I are still alive as tanks, we're able to hold this convoy down and buy time for them to come back. Securing kills is great, but this is the way that tanks win games, by controlling the objective and controlling the space around it. Once the enemy team was at a disadvantage, we pushed them all the way back into their spawn, and I was using the Emma shield to keep my energy up, as now that we have control over this objective, we're going to play very slow and smart, and we're just going to hold this objective down. There's no reason for me to push up into the open like that and risk dying when the convoy is right here. And even though I'd like to keep my energy as high as possible, it's not worth trying to keep my energy high if it means that I end up dying for it. Brandon uses his ult to try and buy space and buy time. Emma tries to counter, and because of it, it ends up leading to her death. And right after securing the kill on her, I immediately go to try and destroy the amplifier and also take the fight to the objective and try and hold the convoy down. Seeing Mag push up, I use my shield to try and block off the heals, and the moment he stepped past me, I used my diamond form as a displacement tool, and then I grabbed him afterwards in order to stun him inside of the Penny mines. Penny is an extremely strong tank to have on your team, but she doesn't play in the traditional sense of point and click and do damage. But those spider mines catch even the most experienced player off guard. And what I'm trying to do as the anchor tank is help enable him by controlling the space, allowing him time and space to set up all of his traps. It's very difficult to predict where all of Penny's mines are going to be. So instead of trying to duke it out on the point with the enemy tanks, I'm pushing them into his traps. Seeing the rocket fall and knowing that people were coming out of the spawn, I see two squishies in front of me and I have high energy, which means that I'm going to try and secure staggers as fast as I can. And luckily, because a lot of people playing Gambit right now are DPS players and they're not used to the support role, I'm able to secure a kill on Bucky right next to Gambit. And being full energy, now I'm just looking for more staggers as the enemy team is not walking out together as a full 6. The moment I got my ult, I once again immediately popped it to try and see if I couldn't secure some more kills. And unfortunately, I didn't get a whole lot of value out of it. And while it is unfortunate I couldn't secure any staggers, I always prefer to use my ults a lot more aggressively and proactively than reactively. Unless, of course, I'm trying to save my ult to counter a specific person in the enemy team like Bucky or Star-Lord. We unfortunately double support ulted, which meant that it was very crucial that we win that team fight. I got the kill on the Bucky, and unfortunately I didn't realize that he got res, so he immediately came back and got the kill on me, and luckily I get the res. And I'm going to go back to try and contest the convoy to keep it from moving and see if we can't get some more kills out of the Penny mines. Hearing Bucky say again, I immediately turn my sights on him because now I know I need to shut him down. We're able to secure the kill on Bucky, and now Brandon is using his Penny ult to buy more space and time. I'm too low because of the Moon Knight ult though, so I back up to try and play safe and regain some of my health. I don't know where my supports are at this moment in time, so I'm just trying to play safe and try and regain some of my health slowly so I can get back into the fight. Once I see that the fight is totally lost though, I immediately just go to die onto the point, because if you're going to die anywhere, die on the convoy, because at least then you're stalling it out for a few seconds longer. The second point on this map absolutely sucks. There's no cover as it enters up to this high ground here, so usually whichever team has the advantage is just going to steamroll over the other team. And with us losing Star-Lord and him being the only one with an ultimate, we lose essentially our win condition for this point. I walk up and I see the enemy team doing the exact same thing that I would do, which is try and deny space. Seeing them all grouped up, I immediately pop my ult without thinking, and luckily this time it works out a lot better and I'm able to secure a lot more kills, which means we get access to more space and we can stop that convoy from moving. The more I'm able to slow down the progression of that convoy, the more fights I buy for my team and the more opportunities I give them in order to keep the enemy from capping. And even though we're so close to the enemy spawn here, because of the fact that I know that they're down, I'm able to push up to this convoy and take space away from them. And just like I've been saying, my goal isn't necessarily to get kills in this moment. It's just to be touching the convoy and keeping it from moving. As a chaotic teamfight happens, we're starting to lose people on both sides. I retreat in order to stay alive. I immediately go back and start holding the safest corner, because once again, my job as tank is to hold space and to buy time for my DPS to try and secure kills. Penny having set up nests at this corner makes it great for me to bunker down and hold down this spot.
I'll patch you up.
That's it! Don't let anything stand in your way! Behind you!
Again!
Did you even try this?
30 seconds!
Knowing that the enemy team is going to respawn soon as well, I immediately start backing up as well. I do not want to get picked in this scenario because the moment I do is the moment the rest of my team will fall over. Because the moment that any one person on a team falls over, it makes it much easier for the opposing team to secure the rest of the kills. As I see Moon Knight going to try and make a play, I go to try and deny that play from happening. I unfortunately wasn't able to stop his ult, but I did get the execute on him. And once I saw Star-Lord ult, I immediately tried to grab him to try and shut him down, and unfortunately I missed. However, because of the fact that we held space for so long and so well, that convoy has a long ways to push up before they can cap, which means that my team has plenty of time to respawn and get an opportunity to win one final fight in overtime. And seeing that I'm really close to my ultimate, as well as Spidey getting closer to his, I'm feeling confident in my team's abilities to regroup and win this last fight. Upon hearing the enemy team use Gambit ult and seeing my team all the way out in the open like that, I know that the enemy team is going to try and rush and try and secure a kill as fast as they can. And if they're able to secure even one kill in this moment, that means that they're probably going to win the team fight. So I use Emma's ult not as a means to necessarily try and for sure secure a kill, but rather to shut down the enemy Gambit ult and keep them from securing any kills and allowing time for my Spidey and Rocket to build up their ultimates and use those two to win the game. After buying enough time and holding down the convoy and keeping it from moving anywhere, I was able to help my team build their ultimates up, and with the combination of Invis Woman ult as well as Brandon's ult onto the point, the enemy team didn't feel safe to stand in there, pushing them off of the point and allowing us to win the game. And that is how you properly anchor tank. Anchor tanks are really good at holding down and controlling space. So much so, in fact, that even if your DPS die twice as much as you, you're still able to hold down the objective for a really long time. By understanding the push and pull of the fight, you're able to really control the momentum of the game. And while this was a game that Brandon and I were both able to get a lot of finals, once again, it's not about finals. We were able to control how slowly the convoy was moving because of the fact that we were alive more than anything else. I know that most people want to lock DPS in this game, but realistically, if you want to climb, especially through the lower ranks, mastering tanks is one of the best ways to do that. Because while DPS might be flashy as you secure kills, tanks control the objective. And at the end of the day, this is an objective-based game. So that is how you anchor tank. I hope you found it helpful. And if you have any questions, please leave them down in the comments below.